Crunchies, welcome to the channel if you're new or if you're not. I'm Alicia and I'm stoked you are here either way. Today we are talking about processed foods that are cleaner than you might think. Jackpot. First, let's talk about the word clean. I know some people are really averse to this word because calling some foods clean can insinuate that some foods are dirty, which can demonize food. Some people also hate the term junk food because it can kind of put foods in a good and bad category. So I want to be clear, because I have a pretty deeply rooted habit of using the word clean, that to me, clean is merely an indicator of there being fewer ingredients that are pronounceable and understandable. You know where they came from, so they're whole foods derived. And if there's fewer ingredients, generally that's gonna mean that there's less processing involved. I also think about clean as avoiding as many additives, preservatives, synthetic ingredients, etc., as well as processed ingredients. So high fructose corn syrup, MSG, BHT, I considered all of that today. So if you hear me use the word clean, just know that's my intention behind it. I'm not trying to demonize. What is the point of this video? So I have been on a mission to make peace with fear foods, which I've talked about before as foods with emotional attachment or rules. I will link a couple of videos I've done related to that below. Ultimately, I've decided that for me, rather than trying to replace a food with a healthier alternative that doesn't satisfy, sometimes I just want the real deal. Sometimes when I weigh out my enjoyment for the real deal with the ingredients, it may actually be more worth it for me than turning to the alternative. So, case in point, what I've realized is perhaps some of these processed foods aren't as detrimental as we might think. It all depends on what matters to you. I'm not saying that processed foods or these foods are better for you than whole foods. By all means, eat as many, whole fruits and vegetables as you can. I'm just saying, maybe we don't need the black and white boxes that we've put these foods in the past. Rather than only focusing on macronutrients or ingredients, there is, I think, a balance of both that can be struck while also accounting for taste and enjoyment, which is really important in our relationships with food. Some of these that I'm going to talk about today really surprised me. I specifically wanted to focus on foods that don't advertise themselves as healthy as much as possible. So they don't say healthy or skinny or low fat or any of those marketing claims, but I tried to really focus on regular processed foods for the most part. I have got 20 to show you today. The first kind of group of processed foods I want to talk about are potato chips. So when we hear processed foods, we think potato chips, and that's the first group I want to talk about today. Ironically, they're often one of the cleanest choices. So only 3 ingredients are really needed. In Lay's, Ruffles, and Picnics, all of the ingredients are the same. It's pretty much potatoes, oil, and salt. Also, both Lay's regular and natural are also exactly the same in terms of calories and macronutrients. The only difference is the type of oil, which is sunflower in the natural. The natural may be less inflammatory because it doesn't have the corn and or canola oil, and that is surely something to consider with oils and processed foods. They have a lot of omega-6s, which keeps your omega-6 to 3 ratio super off, as is the case with almost everyone in the West. Whether we eat healthy or not, it's really hard to keep that omega balance in check. And so additional omega-6s in processed foods can really inflame us. It's true that chips are generally fried, and I'm sure these are, but these products don't use hydrogenated oils. They don't contain trans fats. Now, I will say this kind of clean factor is only really the case when you get plain flavored chips. So when you get into the flavors like sour cream and onion and barbecue and all the extra good stuff, those lists get much longer. But if you get plain salty potato chips, they could definitely be worse. I thought it would be interesting to also show what 100 calories of each of these looks like today. Now, there's no magic behind the number 100. It's arbitrary. All serving sizes are arbitrary. Whatever it says on the package doesn't really matter. But the point is, our culture has demonized a lot of these foods when really, not only are some of them not as unfavorable as we thought in terms of ingredients, but the amounts or servings too. I've just gotta say, while I truly love potatoes in any form, especially fried crunchy ones, these are like, they take me back to childhood because I used to beg my mom to get them. All right, so I have been doing a mindful eating certification that focuses on healing binge eating. I'll be sharing more in the coming months, my fellow binge eaters, so stay tuned. But one of the most common foods that people report binging on is tortilla chips. So the endless basket at the restaurant or at home with a jar of salsa, it's really easy to overdo it. But the good news, actually, they only have and need 3 ingredients: corn, oil, and salt. Now, as was the case with the potato chips we looked at before, you wanna look at the oil if you can. Now, for sure, there are some brands that use more favorable oils that won't throw your omega-6 to 3 ratio off as much when it comes to inflammation. But at the end of the day, the fact that these are just 3 ingredients is totally a win. Popcorn, same thing, only really needs 3 ingredients: popcorn, oil, and salt. And often if you get air popped, it doesn't even need the oil. So I also wanna talk about Smart Food Pop, which was one of my favorites growing up as well. I was actually really surprised to look at the ingredients and see it's not that bad. I mean, there's only 7 ingredients, most of which are whole foods derived. It's relatively clean, right? So then I saw this Smart Food Smart 50, which is definitely claiming to be healthier, right? It's wanting you to think it's better for you. It's advertising 50 calories per cup or less. And I thought that this would be a good learning opportunity to share. So the regular one only has, 6 or 7 ingredients, all of which are understandable and whole foods derived for the most part. It's 160 calories per 28 grams. 100 calories worth of it looks like this. Now, Smart Food Smart 50 white cheddar popcorn is marketed to look healthier, but the ingredients list is so much longer. Look at that. It has way more ingredients and way more processed and way less whole foods ingredients. A 28-gram serving is 150 calories, which is only 10 calories less than the regular Smart Food, and the fat is only 2 grams less for the same serving size. So for perspective, 100 calories of the Smart Food Smart 50 white cheddar looks like this compared to the Smart Food regular. Come on! Can you even tell a difference looking at that size? When I did the math, there's actually only a 1 gram difference between the two for 100 calories serving size, 17.5 grams versus 18.6. And what's more important, and the whole point of this video, I can tell a difference in taste. And so my enjoyment is less. And I am consuming more processed ingredients when I eat this version. So, lesson, beware of the health claims and the health marketing tactics. The best thing that we can do is learn to look at the labels and decide for ourselves. Also, not that gluten-free means healthy, but every item I have shared so far today is actually gluten-free too. Okay, another food I loved growing up, and I still do as an adult, but there's a lot of fear. Remember, I discussed fear foods as being foods with emotional attachment and rules, is crackers. So, some crackers are, for sure, loaded with processed stuff, but not all of them are. Triscuits, for instance, only have 3 ingredients: whole grain wheat, oil, and salt. And they're whole grain too, okay? These oyster crackers, which are just like saltines, I love these too, and they really could be worse. Now, they're not whole grain. They're enriched refined grain flour, but the rest is just oil, salt, yeast, and baking soda. So this is essentially the same thing as eating bread. So just notice any food rules that you have. If you eat bread, but decide crackers aren't healthy, it may be worth taking a look. Maybe not, it's up to you, but I'm on a mission to make peace with food where I can find joy in eating what I want without the guilt and balance that with health. If I really want crackers, there is a way to enjoy the real deal, and they don't have to be, cauliflower or nut crackers. If you like cauliflower and nut crackers, that's great, but when I'm eating them, I'm constantly wishing they were this. And same as with the Smart Food Pop example, a lot of those healthy crackers actually have more ingredients and even preservatives than these. So making something low fat or low sodium often means adding more synthetic ingredients to compensate. Okay, so this section is one of the biggest surprises of the day. First, let's look at some typical common processed foods that everyone considers processed, like Doritos and Cheetos. Unfortunately, these are not the ones that I'm going to suggest are clean. Delicious, no doubt, but yeah, those ingredients lists are long and less ideal. This is the kind of ingredients list we think of when we think of processed junk food. But let's take a look at another snack in the Eatos family, Fritos. Another super common processed food that is not advertised or marketed as healthy at all. Say what? There's only 3 ingredients: corn, oil, and salt. And that is for both the regular and the scoops. 100 calories of this also might be more than you might expect. Now, going for flavored Frito varieties is definitely gonna add ingredients. I know like the barbecue, delicious ones that look like little rotini pastas, oh so good, but the ingredients list is long. Bugles is another one that surprised me with the main ingredients and the length of the list. I did want to bring it to your attention, but I don't think it actually makes whatever fake list we're making here because of the last ingredient, which is preserved by BHT. Wah, wah. I was really bummed to see that because the rest of it is really not so bad. BHT is generally recognized as safe by the FDA, but it's really controversial, sort of like aspartame and sweeteners. So some animal studies have shown it to be a carcinogen. I did a little bit of research and it seems BHA is far more dangerous than BHT. BHT used to be used in a lot of breakfast cereals, but the last few years, most companies have started to remove it. I actually haven't seen it on a package in a while, so this was a surprise, and it is disappointing. But as is the case with everything in this nature, it depends on how much you eat. So eating a few Bugles or a bag of Bugles isn't likely going to cause you cancer, but if you're consuming BHT all day, every day, that's a different story. The question is, are Bugles really worth it when there are so many other options? Well, I can't say. It really depends on how much joy Bugles bring your buds. If you want more videos like this, I hope you will subscribe and hit the bell because we've got more coming every single week. So at the beginning of the video, I told you I was staying away from foods where the packages made marketing health claims, but I figured it was worth addressing some of the more obvious snack foods that are processed but have less ingredients. So packaged snacks like pork rinds, cocktail peanuts, corn nuts, beef jerky, they're all classic road trip kind of snacks. We see them in convenience stores or gas stations, and they're actually not as processed or synthetic, at least, as you might think. Of course, read the labels. This isn't the case for every brand of pork rinds or nuts or jerky, but typically we can expect these items to have less ingredients and are more obviously whole foods derived. I mean, these Moon cheese, for instance, I know there's like a million different brands that do this now, but usually the only ingredient is cheese, and they taste really good because it's not trying to be anything else. It's just a crunchy, salty bite. So these are items I can enjoy as is, even though they're processed foods, they've got less going into them. Okay, how about some of the less obvious clean products? So, shortbread, it's a cookie that needs very few ingredients when you make it at home. And some brands keep it that simple. I mean, look at this. It's wheat flour, butter, sugar, and salt. That's it. Yes. Now, shortbread is dense since it's mostly butter, but shortbread without butter, I mean, is it even worth it? It's not shortbread. Not if you like the real deal, like me. Now, I wanted to compare that to another cookie that people might consider lighter, like a vanilla wafer. Yes, you do get more physical cookies for the serving size when comparing the grams, but the ingredients list is way longer and far less clean or whole foods derived. So my approach to health in general has shifted a lot over the years. I used to really get hung up on macronutrients, and then I also went through a period where I got hung up on specific ingredients, and now I really realize that balance is key. Where I am right now, I would rather put the ingredients I know in my body, even if it's a smaller amount of that food, and it's still technically a processed food, than the more inflammatory and processed item, even if it has less calories. These Belgian waffle butter crisps also surprised me with the ingredients list. Here, don't judge a book by its cover is appropriate. It kind of means don't judge a processed food by the front of the package and make sure you read the label. And last, I wanted to just bring your attention to chocolate. And I'm not saying that chocolate is healthy or unhealthy. I'm not saying any of these foods today are right or wrong. Only you know what's right for you. But it may surprise some of you to know that chocolate requires far fewer ingredients than you might think, even a Hershey's bar. Yes, of course, the darker is gonna have less sugar, milk is gonna have more sugar, and 100%, no doubt, sugar is inflammatory and we want as little added as possible. But part of what makes my healthy lifestyle sustainable is allowing some sugar. If I didn't give myself permission to ever have it, I would be miserable. I only know that because for so long I lived that way, constantly feeling deprived. Now I let myself have it here or there, tuning in, and it turns out when I do that, I actually crave it less. And 100 calories of chocolate may surprise you too. Some of you might realize that you actually need even less than 100 calories to satisfy when a craving hits. Okay, so remember, there's no right or wrong. Don't get hung up on the word clean. The language is less important than the intention within yourself. So just be clear on how you view food. If you call it clean and are afraid of dirty foods, it's worth looking at. If you can call it clean and know it's simply looking through a Whole Foods lens, you could be okay. Find what works for you. I hope that you will share any packaged foods that you were surprised by the nutrition of in the comments. As you can see, there are quite a lot to choose from that don't have too many ingredients. And this is just from what I found from a brief search. If you want more videos like this, let me know. I am going to continue to share more content like this in the coming months, and I will link a few others that I've done similarly in the description box below. Thank you so much for being here. I'll be back next week with a brand new episode. And remember, especially when it comes to processed foods, it's all a matter of mind over munch.